there's a solid chance that the third quarter of this year, 2023, has been the best reading quarter that I've had all year long. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardries, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today we're here to do the top 10 Q3 of 2023, but before we get into that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. And you can check the description box down below for links to all of my social media, including links to my Patreon if you want to help support the channel, the Discord, my Amazon wishlist if you want to send me a book. All of that is right down there. Now, let's jump right on into this list because we've got 10 amazing books to talk about. Now, we're going to start with the ones that I don't own physically. And starting off that list is Pawn's Gambit by Rob J. Hayes. This is book 2, and I believe it's called The Mortal Techniques or The Mortal Instruments. It's one of those two. They're so similar, I get them mixed up all the time. And there's just something about this book. Basically, we kind of come back to a small side character from Never Die, and that character now becomes the main character in a story that deals with like the wars of gods and their machinations and power plays and stuff like that. The Art of War was awesome. I really enjoyed this sequel. Contrary to popular belief, Pawn's Gambit is my favorite book released in, I'm going to say, the Mortal Instruments. No, Mortal Techniques. I'm going to say Mortal Techniques. We're going to go with Mortal Techniques. It's my favorite in the Mortal Techniques. I did like Spirits of Vengeance, but Pawn's Gambit was just where it was at. I love this. I love the characters. I love the dynamic. I love the interaction between mortals and gods. I loved the games. It was just all so good. So that's where we're starting off this list at. Next up, I have a copy of this on the way sometime in the future because I got a special edition of it because I loved it so much, and that is Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe. I'm actually in Q4 reading book number 2 of this, and I can't wait to just dive into the meat of the story, which should be here soon. But basically, we follow Corin Cadence as he navigates this kind of social society at his school, learns how to gain power, learns how to use his power, learns about the power level, learns about demigods, gets embroiled in all of their machinations, all while trying to keep his grades up, and kind of work with a handicap because he's got some social issues going on. This is kind of lit RPG-esque or progression fantasy. I love this. I can't wait to just devour the rest of this series. Hopefully it all stays just as good. And so far, On the Shoulder of Titans, book number 2, is meeting those expectations. So it's a very good read. Next up, one that I don't own yet, but is coming out next month in Q4, but I got to be a beta read on it, and that means I read it in Q3, and it's one of the best books that I got to read in Q3. And that is Tori Tekken's Bloodstones. And this is an Asian-inspired coming-of-age found family fantasy. It's a little bit on the darker side of fantasy, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but it makes this list. It's so good. Please do yourself a favor, and when the pre-order for this becomes available, click pre-order, because I know I will be. It was so amazing. We watched this young man I'm not giving any sort of details or names, but he basically, we meet him as a child, we deal with him as a young adult, and his situation is intriguing. There's tons of politics involved, there's tons of combat and action, and morally great choices and what it means to survive. Bloodstones is going to be amazing, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to read it. After that, we have got The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba, and I'm going to go with Volume 1 here. Mainly because I'm choosing Volume 1 to be my top 10 because I read Book 3, which was actually my favorite in the series so far, in Q4. But I'm putting Volume 1 here, A, because Volume 2 is super long, although Volume 2 is also really good. But Volume 1 just made me fall in love with the series. It introduces me to Aaron Solstice and The Wandering Inn, or I guess I should say In-World. I fell in love with these characters. I thought the world was creative and interesting. It just sucked me right in, and I became an instant fan of this series, and I want more people to at least give the first book a shot. If you like the first book and you vibe with it, then continue on with the story. No questions asked. Just dive right on in. Don't look back. It's so incredibly good. Then I've got one that I don't think you guys are expecting, and it's going to be Agatha Christie. And if I could choose this entire bind-up, I would, because this is Death on the Nile, the ABC Murders, and Five Little Pigs. I'm going with the ABC Murders. I loved... There's a form of gaslighting in here that I thought was really intriguing, and it was an interesting twist on the kind of murder mystery. And Agatha Christie always does something a little different, which is why she was called the Queen of Crime back in her day. But, I mean, I fell back in love with Agatha Christie. I think by the time you guys have seen this, I'll have read 5 Agatha Christie books with just in the last 2 to 3 months. And I don't see that slowing down unless I just get tired of murder mysteries. I plan on continuing to read more and more Agatha Christie. I'm not committing to the entire breadth of work, but they're amazing, amazing palate cleansers. And the Hercule Poirot, I love this sub-series. I haven't tried Miss Marple or anything like that, which I plan to dip my toe into Miss Marple eventually. I just don't know a good starting point. So, my Agatha Christie peeps, if you've read Miss Marple and you've got a good starting point for me, let me know in the comments down below, because I would love a good starting point for Miss Marple by Agatha Christie. So, that's the first physical one we've got. And then we've got this one. This was my SPFBO semifinalist that I submitted for the competition. This is The Price of Power by Michael Michelle, and this book is deep. It's got some deep themes. It makes you think. It's slow paced. There's a great story of redemption here. We've got some incredibly interesting characters. It's just fascinating. It is a journey. It is a trip. It is a much darker fantasy, and it's surprisingly slow paced. I probably read that. I think I read this over about 2 months. It took me a fair bit to just get through it, because as I was reading it, I was digesting it. I was thinking about the themes. I was thinking about what the characters were going through. And really, I mean, the deepest theme is, what is the price of power? This uses some incredible, interesting structure, because the prologue is written as if it was in the 70s or a different time period of fantasy to kind of show a different time period. So then there's a structure and a style change from the prologue to the rest of the book. And then one of the POVs has a different tense, just to kind of showcase the way that this person views the world or views time in general. It's just incredibly clever and well thought out. Tons of action, tons of dark themes. It's amazing. Really, really good stuff here. And then, of course, you didn't think R.J. Barker was going to be left off the list. This is Age of Assassins, Wounded Kingdom #1, and we've got Girton Clubfoot. And Girton is just an incredibly compelling POV, because basically the whole tagline is to catch an assassin, use an assassin. And what's cool about that is Girton is an assassin apprentice, and basically the queen fears that her son is about to be assassinated. So she calls on an old assassin acquaintance and her apprentice to try and track this person down. And then Girton has to infiltrate and live a normal life and assume a character and deal with everything that comes with it, including friendship and bullying and all sorts of that stuff. And he has to hide the fact that he is not who he seems to be. And he's got his own little grudges, his own little missions. This was an amazing, amazing read. And in Q4, I'm reading book 2. And book 3, actually. So I'm reading both. I'm reading the rest of the trilogy in Q4, is what I'm trying to say here. And utterly failing. But a fantastic book. R.J. Barker is a new favorite author of mine. Up next, we've got a cozy fantasy. This is The Stray Spirit by R.K. Ashwick. And this is the story of Emery and Aspen and Cal. And these just 3 characters and their interactions and kind of just the human condition and not wanting to be a disappointment and reaching for your dreams and then sometimes having to give up those dreams in lieu of a bigger goal or a bigger achievement, like saving lives and stuff like that. This is a bardic fantasy. It's so good. It's super short. Aspen is a tree spirit, and I just loved everything about this story. It's a redeeming love story. There's a slight romance in there. Oh, so incredibly good, especially because I'm not really big into romance subplots, but that one was really, really good. Then, of course, we've got another SPFBO finalist, and this is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. And guys, this one like snagged me from the first page. Like, I'll just read you the first line of the story. Had Mr. Bash known this was the night he was going to die, he would have just stayed home. And like, it snags you, instant hook. This is kind of like a gas lamp, almost steampunk-ish. Very light on the steampunk, but gas lamp / steampunk fantasy world where we've got a group of rebels who are kind of in hiding. They're trying to clear their names. They're very wanted. It's so incredibly good. We've got this kind of artful Dodgers-style character, this young boy who keeps getting into trouble, who then gets embroiled with these rebels and then has his fate kind of tied to them. It's a fantastic story, and it's so incredibly good. If you want more thoughts on this, I do have a full review right there. Please check that out. It was such a great, great read. And then closing this out is one of my new favorite books of all time. I didn't quite love the sequel as much as I liked this book, but I'll revisit it and see how I feel later down the road. That is Daughter of the Empire by Raymond E. Feist and Janie Wirtz. This is a political fantasy about a young girl thrust into a situation when she wasn't quite ready for it, and I am here for everything that Mara goes through in this entry. There's no Kevin in this one. Book 2 has somebody named Kevin, and I don't know why the name Kevin bugs me, but the name Kevin bugs me. I can't let it go. I don't know why. But yeah, this book is amazing. 5 stars all the way through. My favorite political fantasy of all time. This is a flawless, flawless masterpiece. But guys, those are my top 10 Q3 books that I read this year. Please let me know in the comments down below what your top 10 Q3 books were. And until next time, guys, that's really all I got for you. Peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.